Turned out I found a place to stay overnight with a guy I met at DuPont Circle earlier in the afternoon. He'd invited me to stay with him, so I didn't need to stay with somebody else after getting together with the national organizational people. A man who I eventually fully came out to and who gave me a kiss on the lips when we parted 2 days later. I had gone into D.C. unsure of where I would stay, but knowing that there were various spaces had been set up for the parade, visitors and so-called homeless. Morning of the march. The morning of the march, I set up my costume just after exiting the subway, as legions of fellow homophiles cheerily moved by, many hinting curiosity. When I got into the main grounds, Jesse Jackson was speaking, and I half had a notion to go rile things up there a little. You know, I like Jesse, but I'm sure he could use a little heckling as far as the BL thing goes anyways, right? As bullhorns have the capacity to do. Had I met a fellow dark-skinned, non-silent activist who had marched with me before and said he had come down to join me, yeah, right, perhaps I would have. Instead, I wafted through the herds and sought the front. Near it, I found Dan T., a well-known author of a boy love book, The Age Taboo. I guess I could name him fully here, but I'll hold it back for now. He said he took a couple of pictures of my costume and everything, and later it turned out that he had apparently not even taken the pictures, as when I called him, repeatedly he stalled and finally said in a dismissive tone that they had not turned out. This from a person who I don't think is a novice photographer. So already I was being considered kind of a troublemaker within the national organization, and just because I wanted to hear lots of different voices, not just this middle-class, academic-oriented voices type thing that they seem to be stuck in. And, you know, I got more to say about that, and they're not going to listen to me because they've been through a lot of shit, a lot of bombardment, you know. But the reality is there's lots of other people who want to do different things besides their way. So why can't we, you know, have the same umbrella for all of us? But I was naive to the politics, of the reality of the politics, that maybe they are oriented to a right-wing approach to things. Maybe they are, you know, kind of, you know, deserving of that critique that was leveled on them by the feminists, you know, at least in the 80s, in the 70s, I think, to some extent. I don't know about that, but the 80s for sure, there was some, you know, Ortiz Dunbar, whatever her name, you know, she was saying stuff about these people, and so, you know, there might have been some truth to that. I started meeting some of these people, and some of them were, a lot of them, you know, some of the main people, they were really good folks and really loved them in a lot of ways. It's just that we had a different way of doing things than each other, and I never really explained that very much to people, but they never asked me either, so I think they just saw me as a troublemaker and they didn't want to cooperate. So it's too bad that that's how they had to see me. But so I finally got going and doing my own thing, you know, what I thought we could do the job, you know, based on my life experience, right? So anyways, by this time I'd already been using my so-called yell cards, which helped me read slogans, etc., through the bullhorn as a ghost of BL'ers Past, haunting the respectability forces of the assimilation-seeking gay community. I read short pieces from various people, such as Jeff Bean's article in Changing Men magazine, issue number 23, and significant speak carefully picked from various publications such as John Holt's Escape from Childhood, The Needs and Rights of Children, and a few anti-authoritarian publications. I think all those were anti-authoritarian publications, actually, if you think about it. But plus the words pocketed from various bulletin letters and phrases and thoughts here and there. So I've been, you know, studying these things for a long time, and I thought, well, I'll take the best of what I know from it, the best sound bites, the best, you know, anecdotes, you know, all that stuff, right? All right, so various yell cards will be shared in a third part of this thing, at least third, might be fourth. Adversity? As far as adversity, I met little. I think it had to do with the tactics of surprise that I used, in line with a guy named Saul Alinsky. Few were prepared for the so-called lone warrior to step up alone and fuck with their mindsets. Now, when I use the word warrior, that was before I thought of what that means to use the word war in there and how that's really not who I am, you know. So I started to think there's other ways to articulate that, and I have been just bringing that up here and there. I'm not sure I want to bring it up in this milieu yet. Maybe that's something we do privately if you dare to even speak with me. Alright, so anyway, there were two exceptions of being messed with by somebody who was projecting on me, basically, okay? First, the first one was the original color art that I had with me was torn from the back of my backpack and stolen by a lesbian. She obviously hadn't spent any time really looking at it or thinking about it, but as she pranced back to her herd, she looked at it and saw that the so-called dreaded genitals were funny, smiling faces. That's right, a full-color piece that had funny, smiling faces in the crotches of these human beings. The second one was the second incident was when another woman opponent or woman type, you know, dupe, really, met me alone with the safety of the bewildered herd behind and proceeded to attack me verbally after asking if I was part of the national organization and whether I was some operative of them. I said, well, the need to blur my individuality before striking with righteousness. I truthfully said no, because at that time I hadn't yet paid my dues this year and wondered if I should. Well, she still had to retreat with the so-called dignity of spiting me in hysteria, else her peer pressure might question her loyalty or something. And then here's a quote from a guy, one of the editors of this anti-authoritarian magazine, and it's here's the quote: "It's as if I described a pleasant sex experience with a woman, and that meant I supported forced sex with all women." Interesting comment, huh? Yeah, and so anyway, all the rest of okay, yeah. Oh wait, am I missing something here? Oh wow, what the hell's going on here? Okay, I'm just totally messed up a little bit there. Okay, all right. So now read continuing here. The woman seemed to be on the verge of physical violence, thought one of the older men who I didn't know, as he trained his speak on telling her that it was not necessary. He just came out of the crowd suddenly and started getting down on her a little bit. She reacted that she had the right to speak too. If she had if she had attacked me physically, I would have made use of my bullhorn to make sure a lot of people heard what was going down, if that might make a difference when my death made news. So there I was, walking right through all that heavy-duty fear, you know, knowing that I might get killed. But I went and did it anyway. So I too find it kind of crazy to even think about facing such irrationality as people wanting to kill or hurt those they don't agree with or don't even know. But I was prepared psychologically, as the march from the San Francisco thing back in '92 helped shed any last naivety. Basically, I felt that this was a strong way to bash back, quote-unquote, as the queer nation saying goes, at all the insane lies and misinformation prevalent in the society. And then this quote from this anti-authoritarian to add to it here says, "What right do you have to universalize your own painful experience on all the rest of the world?" And I could name who that is, and I have published his name before. I just feel like, well, I'm going to let it go for now. See what he thinks about it sometime. All the rest of the year, we cherishers of young human beings must sit through society's orgasmic violence done upon the entire spectrum of older and younger intimacy. So I think once or twice a year at least, we gutsy, so-called egotistical lone warriors, so-called warriors, can have a good time making the sheep gay community uncomfortable. This is not about quote-unquote image or quote-unquote respectability. Fuck that. This is about our people's lives being destroyed on all fronts. It's about dudes being systematically divided away from adults in the most important area of all, the humanness we all share and need, intimacy, trust, affection. It's about control of the masses, I believe. We need, I believe, to use every available resource for not just our survival, but our thriving and legal exercising of all the gifts given to us to love. Now, using the word believe, and the word believe, I'm starting to think it through more after listening to somebody from the world indigenous community. Back to the march. Those brushes with adversity stayed within the confines of the start-off grounds, and from there I mostly got people who asked me to move along. Alright, I'm going to stop recording now. Thank you very much.